Hi everyone, this is Yamini from St. Peter's College of Engineering and Technology of MBA Department. Welcome to the session of Industrial Relation and Labour Welfare. Today I would like to take you all to the topic of industrial safety and industrial accidents. So first let's discuss about what is an industrial accident and what are the different safety measures which has to be followed in an organizational setup. So what do you think an accident can be? An accident is any mishap or untoward incident which happens in an organization which a person or an employee might not be aware of because of lot of negligence or carelessness. A person might be undergoing or might happen to take up an accident in his life. So we will just go through in this lesson what are the various accidents, what are the types of accidents, or maybe what are the causes of an accident, and what are the statutory provisions which are there to prevent accidents in an organization. So let's first discuss about the common causes of an accident. There are a lot of causes because of which a person might meet up with an accident in an organizational setup. The first and the major cause would be shortcuts. Yes, our human mentality to be is lazy and want to finish their work at most quick and fast. So usually what they tend to do is follow the shortcut methods. Nobody is tend to work on a proper or regular process wherein they want to finish all the work quickly. So without knowing, they just tend to move on with shortcuts which they think is an easiest way to complete the work, but actually these are the major reasons for which an accident appears or occurs to this person. And then other reason would be overconfidence. Yes, of course, all of us have or think that we might know this particular job or the particular profession what we are into a better understanding than others. So just to prove ourselves and think that we are the best in a particular job, we feel that we are overconfident and we try to do all kinds of job in a very fast manner, and in turn I would say like we don't want to even discuss or get a perfect understanding before we start the work. So overconfidence would be the next major reason for an accident. Then comes lack of housekeeping or poor housekeeping. Housekeeping in sense, all of you all know, housekeeping includes everything in an environment. Maybe a roll of cables or a water droplet in the floor or maybe a broken staircase. All these things comes under a particular thing. Wherein if a housekeeping in an organization is not well maintained, there are more chances for a person to meet up with an accident. The next cause would be to say is neglecting safety provisions. According to different occupations or different provisions, the government or even the organization or the employee stresses that a particular person has to have some safety provisions or required to carry some safety provision. For example, if a person who is working in a welding machine must wear a goggles or an eye case, or a person who is working near a machinery which is of loud noise must have an earphone or an earplug to cover his ears. And people who are working in X-rays or an MRI scans are required to put a shield on them so that the ultraviolet rays will not affect them. But we as human beings tend to avoid all those regular and needed materials. We don't take care of ourselves. So that would be the major reason in fact. And other thing would be like before getting all the necessary information, we tend to jump into a conclusion saying that maybe this is how I have to do it. So even if you have a washing machine or a fridge, there comes a manual along with it to say how the ways by which it has to be operated. It is the duty of the customer to read through it and understand how to operate the particular thing. The same thing applies for an employee who works in an organization. He or she must be aware of how and when and what means the machine has to be operated. So it is mandatory for everybody to know what kind of job or what kind of experience is required to operate that particular kind of machinery. It is considered as the last one, but I would feel it is a very, very important one wherein it states as a mental distraction. Yes, of course, if you are not in a stable mind, you are absent-minded. There are chances for more carelessness. You might tend to miss out on the important things or the process which might affect you in an accident. So these are the basic common means by which an accident occurs in a workplace. Now we'll move on to the different types of accidents. It is very commonly divided, saying that an industrial accident, any accident which happened inside an industry, then an occupational accident wherein an accident occurs because of the occupation they perform, an accident in mining sector, construction sector, are various types of different types of accidents which we face in our day-to-day life of an employee. And now to moving on to the most and the important aspect is called the statutory provisions, which is available for a person or an employee in the organization. There are a lot more provisions, but we will try to finish off as much as in this session. So the first provision is fencing of machineries. What do you mean by fencing of machineries? Any machinery which is like harmful or which might be in motion or anything which is of huge in nature has to be properly fenced, so that anybody who might not step into the particular session or the particular near the machinery which might cause an accident to the person. Next one is on or near working machineries. There are working machineries which is called as the turbines, which is on rotation, or it might be a machinery with the extra fittings like wheels, with the wheels which has gears and all these things. Those kind of machinery are called as machinery in motion. People should be not allowed to go in a particular distance or in commutation with the machinery. So that comes the next one. Then employment of young employers or young person or young children into machineries because they are prone to be weak generally in body, and they are not as matured enough to know all the information about the particular machine which is hazardous in nature. So employment of young people should be prohibited. And casing of new machineries. New machineries has to be cased. Cased is nothing but it has to be covered, because machineries which are not yet started might not be frequently checked upon or might not be frequently run through or something like that, wherein if not it has been cased, there are chances for people or the employee to run over the machine and might face an accident. Hoist and lift. Every organization or every industry in fact should have the facility of hoist and lift, because in case there is an emergency it must be available for the person. And lifting machineries, chains, lifting ropes and all these things should be properly kept, and it must be reachable in position wherein people, if there is in case of emergency, it can be used to their used for their emergency purpose. Next is revolving machinery. As we studied in the earlier thing, revolving machinery is also called as the machinery which is on or near movement. So people should not go close to a revolving machinery, because there are a lot of chances for a person to get attacked or have an accident with a particular machinery. Pits, sumps and opening in the floors. You know what is a pit and a sump. It has to be given proper consideration, because open floors might have a adverse effect on the employee who is working. So measures has to be taken to close all those things. Then power cuts or the equipments to cut down the power, all these equipment should be available right for an employee, or fire extinguishers. All these things are required for an employee and it must be available for them. And safety officer. Safety officer is required for every organization or an industry wherein that person has to be present in the campus. He actually maintains a particular routine of checking up the machineries, and also be in touch with the employees to find out what kind of safety procedures can be given to the employee. Safety trainings has to be given to the employee, and on all these things. All these are listed into the Factories Act, and there are a lot more sessions to go on. Let's hope to learn. As we have learnt about the industrial safety and industrial accidents, we should also be aware of the occupational hazards. There are different kinds of occupational hazards wherein an employee goes through. The first one will be a chemical hazard. Yes, people who are working with chemicals are prone to different kinds of diseases like skin diseases or diseases, maybe respiratory diseases, or even cancer occurs to people who are working with chemicals. So that kind of hazard which they face because of an occupation is called as chemical hazard. And the next one is called as biological hazard. What do we mean by biological hazard? Biology, as we know, deals of fungus or bacteria or parasites, all these things which affect an employee because of the occupation is called as a biological hazard. The next one is called as the environmental hazard. Environmental hazard is where the employee is placed and asked to work in. Because of the environment in which he works,
he is prone to get some diseases. Maybe a person who's working on a loud machinery is prone to deafness. A person who's working with say maybe a 100% computerized job is prone to problem with his eyes. So these are kinds of environmental hazard. The last hazard would be psychological hazard, because of the stress level, because of the because they are not able to cope up with the job. The like night shift jobs and all these things are the occupational hazard which relates to psychological hazards. So basically an industrial accident or which is have to be dealt with an industrial safety, and an occupational hazard has also have lot of various programs which has to be done and given to an employee for him to overcome and serve with utmost satisfaction and of good productivity. I hope this session was useful for you and hope to see you all in the next session.